Washington Commanders Nation, it's your boy Rio Robinson back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about our Washington Commanders. Preseason football starts in less than 24 hours for the squad. New York Jets first on the schedule, so game preview season is back. Washington Commanders at New York Jets, preseason week 1. Let's get it.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What's going on? If you're going to get your sports betting done, make sure you're checking out the guys with the fastest payouts in the industry. Match bonus up to 125% for your first 3 deposits. BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. But representing the New York Jets on today's game preview, my guy Richie from Roundtable Sports in the Jets Media YouTube channel. Welcome to the show, my guy.
Rio, thank you so much for having me, man. When you reached out like a few weeks ago, I was pumped up to be on this show to break down what I saw yesterday at joint practice and, of course, preview what we got cooked up because football's back. Jets Commanders tomorrow, MetLife Stadium. Pleasure to have myself come on your show, Rio. Appreciate you.
Hell yeah. And I love what you guys are doing as a founder of Roundtable Sports. We just did our first NFC East Roundtable last night. That went well. I'm looking to grow that. But your New York Jets, your outlook going into 2024, it has to be Super Bowl or bust, right? I understand Robert Saleh's first 3 seasons in New York, 4 wins, 7 wins, 7 wins with uncertainty at the quarterback position. You trade for one of the best quarterbacks ever. It ends absolutely heartbreaking on the first drive of the season. What are the 2024 aspirations like for the New York Jets?
The 2024 aspirations for the New York Jets, Rio, is as high as it's ever been in my entire life as a Jets fan. It really has. Like, the expectations from us fans should be winning the division and making a deep playoff run, because us Jets fans are looking at this roster and it is as stacked as it ever has been on paper. And the time is now. Like, if it's not now, it's when. That's our perception of our Jets team, because it's like you mentioned, we have an all-time great at our quarterback spot. We have a loaded up defense. We loaded up this offensive line, and this Jets football team is ready to go. We just got to stay healthy. Aspirations is through the moon. This is the time to win the division. This is the time to make the playoffs and make a deep playoff run. Because like I said, Rio, as a Jets fan, if it's not now, when will it happen? Better happen this year, man.
I feel that. See, you guys are at a very different point of a franchise right now, but I can say as a fan of this sport, we've went through very similar 2000s. Like the last 25 years, you've seen the promised land almost. You've been to back-to-back AFC championships. You've seen an 11-win season. But just like us, there's been uncertainty at the quarterback position for quite some time. Y'all have not been able to find your long-term answer at that position. You tried it with Zach Wilson. You tried it with Sam Darnold. You tried it with Geno Smith, who was a bust on your organization, but unbusted himself in Seattle and made himself out to be a franchise quarterback. That is heartbreaking. I thought shit like that only happens to the Commander. You've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick, the journeymans of the world. You got 1 year out of Brett Favre. What makes 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers with this current roster? What makes this different than before?
It's Aaron Rodgers. It's that simple. I feel like what Aaron Rodgers brings is it's his system. You know, right? If you ask a Jets fan, what's the one thing you're concerned about this year? It is our offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. But the good thing is it's not him. It's Aaron Rodgers calling the plays. And like you said, man, we're going through a carousel of quarterbacks. Sam Darnold bust. Zach Wilson bust. Washington can, attest to that. Now they're entering their new, regime in terms of a new head coach, a new quarterback. Like Jets fans know what that's all about. But the Jets went a different route, right? We're not going after and trying to draft a quarterback and develop him. We're going all in with a veteran type of quarterback. And that's kind of how it feels right now. You see what the Jets defense has done these last few years. It is absolutely heartbreaking that we have not been able to, give this defense what they deserves, which is simply points. Rio, listen to this stat. If the Jets put up a league average of like 22 points per game the last 2 years, the Jets are like 20-3 or something like that. That's how great this Jets defense is, and that's how terrible our offense has been. We're not asking this offense, Rio, to be great. We're not asking this offense to be top 5, top 10. We're asking them to be average, be middle of the road, and with the defense that we have, we're going to win a lot of football games, and that's why the narrative like, oh, the Jets are just hoping Rodgers is MVP and hoping he's the savior of this franchise. No, that's not the case. We just need him to score points like an average offense, and we will be good to go and hopefully make a deep playoff run.
Oh, yeah. I want to see it, too, because Aaron Rodgers is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. Like, walk me through that emotional roller coaster. I know excitement and chills had to be running down your spine when Rodgers came out with the flag last year. And then, 5 plays into the season, it's over. Walk me through how heartbreaking. And where does that rank on New York Jets heartbreak?
Rio, you're triggering a trauma right now for me asking me this question, man. That is number one. I'll argue that's like the biggest heartbreak in my entire life out of anything. Sports, you name it, whatever the case may be. Family heartbreak, I don't know, relationship heartbreak. That was the number one heartbreak. Rio, I was in the building for that, by the way. And you know what night that was actually? That was the night of the first ever Roundtable Sports event. It was the first night I met TD Finstock in person. The first night I met Dan Mitchell in person. We did a whole roundtable meetup. We did a live show pregame that Monday Night Football from the tailgate, and there was so much buzz, a lot of energy, and then a lot of hype going in. And then, bro, watching Aaron Rodgers walk out that tunnel, the atmosphere was through the roof. I don't know if you remember the game, Rio, but Josh Allen, the offense, was on the field first. The Jets defense forced a 3-and-out. The crowd is ridiculous. It feels like we're in a Super Bowl, bro.
Felt like a playoff game.
Dude, and then remember the first play of the offense was Breece Hall getting the ball off an ACL. He goes for 30 yards.
Yep,
I mean, in that moment, Rio, I'm like, we're going, this is it, baby. And then Rodgers tears his Achilles. I mean, you can't even put it into words. I honestly was up there, and there's a video that I got to send you, Rio, like behind the scenes of TD was next to me trolling me. I'm sitting there depressed, and TD's like, it's all right, Richie, you still got Zach Wilson. And I'm sitting there like feeling like my whole life is over. And then somehow the Jets won the game. I mean, I have no idea how the Jets won that football game, but boy, that was a heartbreak. And it felt like not only a heartbreak for the New York Jets, but I feel like the NFL fans felt like we lost something because there was so much hype around the Jets with Hard Knocks, and it's just like, damn, we'll never know what the Jets are going to be until next year, and here we are heading into that season.
Yep, y'all came into last season as media darlings because coming off Hard Knocks, the hype, everyone's talking about you, Broadway Rodgers. Oh my God, I cannot imagine. I might have got up and left that stadium if I was you because I've seen some heartbreak. I was there the day RG3 tore up his knee versus Seattle in the playoff game. Ain't nothing like seeing that. Like for me, it almost felt like everything I got to enjoy in 2012. I knew it was all over in one night, so I can definitely attest to heartbreak. And before we start talking about your observation from practice yesterday, I wanted to say thank you to your organization. We played a game on Christmas Eve last year. I want to let you know how grateful I am to your organization because y'all delivered a Christmas miracle to Washington. You had a 27-7 lead versus us, and Jacoby Brissett comes in for Sam Howell and brings us back and almost wins that game. If it was not for Greg the Leg Zerline, we would not have been rewarded with the number 2 overall pick to select our quarterback, Jayden Daniels, hopefully our linchpin franchise player of the future. So I'm grateful to the Jets franchise for that. But you were out there at joint practice yesterday. It was rainy. It was ugly, but the better team clearly got the best of a team that's trying to establish an identity. Give me all your observations and what you saw from both sides in joint practice yesterday.
Yeah, so, being at joint practice, Rio, the difficult thing is there's 2 things happening at the same time, right? There's 2 fields. You got the Jets offense against the Commanders defense on one field. You got the Commanders offense against the Jets defense on the other field. I wish I had 2 eyes so I can watch it at the same time. So I'm going back and forth. So unfortunately, I couldn't catch every single play. But the one thing I did notice is, from the Commanders offense, I know that there's a lot of things that are saying Daniels got locked down and he didn't look good, which could be true, but I will tell you this, and I don't know if any beat reporters covering this, he did have a dime. He did have one throw that stood out to me, and it was to Brown down the right side.
The one-hander.
Yeah. There's a video of it. You saw that video?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I saw it. It was gorgeous.
Okay, because that's the one thing I noticed. It was DJ Reed in coverage who was all over Brown, but Brown just made a heck of a play, and Daniels made a heck of a throw. That throw in particular stood out to me. I was like, damn. And Rio, TD Finstock, Dan Mitchell, and myself, we have a daily show covering the NFL, and I have been hyping up the Commanders a little bit, saying like, everyone's like, is there going to be a Houston Texans of this season? And I'm like, I think it could be the Commanders if there was a team, because the Commanders have the same type of mindset. New head coach, rookie quarterback that no one's expecting to kind of be elite immediately. If there is that team, and I look at the Commanders' playmakers around their rookie quarterback, very underrated. I mean, you talk about bringing in Eckler. Everyone forgets, like, oh, I remember being at practice yesterday. Jets fans were like, the Commanders got Austin Eckler? Wow, that's crazy.
We made a lot of quiet moves this
like no one knows that. Like, I knew that, but like it was funny to hear Jets fans that I was around me think like, oh my God, they got Austin Eckler. Terry McLaurin, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. You got Dotson, who's a first-round talent. Brown is a young talent as well. Jamison Crowder, who was beloved by Jets fans, by the way, when he was a member of the New York Jets. So I think you guys do have some playmakers on this offense, but I will say, at the end of practice where they do the drive the field drill where everybody goes onto one field, when it comes to the Commanders offense, the Jets defense locked it down. The pressure got to Daniels, and, you know, he threw a ball over the middle. CJ Mosley knocked it out of Zach Ertz's hands, and then on fourth down, they went for it. Sauce Gardner gets the pass breakup. So the Commanders' offense was up and down, and it was a soggy, wet day. So I wouldn't really take that, you know, as like, oh, the Daniels are struggling. The offense stinks right now. You guys went up against one of the best defenses in the NFL and the Jets in New York, or New Jersey, rather.
In the elements.
The elements were so bad that the Jets were scared to put Rodgers out there, which I was okay with, by the way, because we talked about the trauma that I had to deal with Rodgers going down. But when it comes to the Commanders defensively, I mean, Tyrod Taylor was out there kind of dicing them up. But more particularly, it was Garrett Wilson that was dicing him up. I mean, he was going after Forbes, and he was letting them have it. And I'm expecting Garrett Wilson to take a leap to be like an absolute superstar. I saw that you made a tweet giving G5 some credit. You wanted Garrett Wilson in that draft 2 years ago?
I have a draft clip, an infamous draft clip of me and my boy Jayden. We watched the draft as a group every year. We fell off the couch because he went one pick before we picked. Y'all picked 10th that year, right? We picked 11th and ended up trading back for Jahan Dotson. I wanted one of the Ohio State receivers, but specifically Garrett Wilson so bad. I was G5'd out through the draft process. I had my sights set on him, and then he goes to the Jets one pick before us. But knowing Ron Rivera, he probably wouldn't have picked him if he was on the board. He probably still would have traded back for Jahan Dotson, because Ron Rivera hated nice things here in Washington, and his draft selections were absolutely abysmal. Last year's first rounder, you got to see Emmanuel Forbes up close. He's way too small. He plays with no balance. He plays with no leverage, and teams look at him like food. He's barbecue chicken, and y'all went straight to Garrett Wilson early and often at practice yesterday.
Dude, I mean, Garrett Wilson is an absolute superstar. And the cool thing about Garrett Wilson, Rio, from a Jets fan perspective, is he looks really good against the Jets, you know, in practice. But this was his first time not going up against Sauce Gardner, not going up against DJ Reed, our two really good corners. So he's like, finally, let's see what I look like against other corners. And he saw Forbes. He's like, woo! And he let him have it, man. I mean, the first play on 7-on-7, it was Garrett lined up in the slot, quick slant over the middle, easy completion. And then when the 11-on-11 came, quick little out route completion. You saw that sliding catch out of bounds. And then he had that vertical throw down the field for that 50-yard bomb. Tyrod had it.
You mean when that small child predicted it?
Small child's like, hey, go. Garrett Wilson's about to cook Forbes. And then he absolutely did. And then you saw the touchdown in the red zone drill, that little toe tapper. So it was fun to see. I know that the Commanders are kind of, you know, trying to establish a new identity defensively with, you know, Dan Quinn coming in, and they shipped off all their, I mean, the one thing about Washington I always admired was their pass rushers, but it feels like, Rio, you guys, you know, shipped out all those guys and Chase Young and the guys that really was your identity. So I feel like the Commanders, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but you're trying to establish a new culture defensively with Dan Quinn coming in, who is a phenomenal defensive mind.
Absolutely. And it's a new everything. Like, we're in year 2 of new ownership. We finally got the worst owner in pro sports history out the building. We have a new complete front office. We have a new coaching staff, 23 new players, 13 new starters. So this is a litmus test. Y'all are a top 3 defense, and y'all have weapons y'all have a weapon. Garrett Wilson is a dog, and I don't want to see Garrett Wilson go through the Terry McLaurin NFL plight. Terry McLaurin puts up 1,000 yards with me and you playing quarterback for him. He's played for 11 starting quarterbacks in 5 years, and I hope Jayden's the last quarterback he has to play with. I don't want that life for Garrett Wilson because I love the player at Ohio State, and I love what he's shown despite the fact that he had trash can Wilson throwing him the ball last year, still made it over 1,000 yards, but he's special. But talk to me about the weapons not named Garrett Wilson. How's that wide receiver room shaping out? Mike Williams just got activated off the PUP list for you guys, offseason acquisition. Y'all drafted Malachi Corley, who I think is like a Debo Samuel type clone. What's that wide receiver room looking like after Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, I think we're really excited about the wide receiver room. Obviously, you got to talk about the elephant in the room that everybody thinks the Jets are going to land Devontae Adams by the deadline. By the way, I still think that's a possibility.
I think so too.
Mike Williams getting activated just gets me really excited because he is one of the most underrated number twos, right? With the Chargers, he was the number 2 next to Keenan Allen, and he was an absolute dog over there. The only thing with him, he's got to stay healthy. A guy that, you got to look at for the Jets outside of Garrett Wilson at the wide receiver position is actually Allen Lazard, who was, by the way, a bum last year for the New York Jets in his first year. And a big reason why he was is because when Aaron Rodgers went down, you can tell it affected Allen Lazard. Aaron Rodgers made Allen Lazard who he is today. He was an undrafted free agent in Green Bay. Rodgers opened up his wing and helped Lazard develop into the player. And then the Jets brought him in because we knew we were bringing in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers in camp, Rio, has been feeding Lazard. And he said in the offseason, if there's one relationship he's going to lean into the most, it is Allen Lazard, because last year was such a nightmare from him mentally. He was having just pre-snap penalties, false starts. He was dropping easy passes. It just felt like he was broken mentally. And that's why I feel like he was not successful last year without his quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron's healthy. I think Allen Lazard mixed in with Mike Williams, mixed in with the rookie Malachi Corley, and of course, Garrett Wilson leading the way. That's the wide receiving corps. And then you got to also talk about our number 2 or year 2, Xavier Gipson, the undrafted free agent, who was the guy, by the way, who returned that punt return for the win in week 1 against the Bills last year. He was the guy in Hard Knocks that made the team on the undrafted free agency. So he's our slot guy. So we have Xavier Gipson in the slot with Malachi Corley in the slot. We got Garrett Wilson on the outside and can line up in the slot. He's versatile. And then we got the 2 big boys in Mike Williams and Allen Lazard on the outside. So that's kind of the depth of the wide receiver room. But do you know who's going to be second for the New York Jets in receptions next to Garrett Wilson, Rio? It's none of the guys we just mentioned. It's Breece Hall. Breece Hall is going to get fed the rock through the air.
Low-key had, 70 catches, 600 yards last year as a back?
Yeah, he was second in all-purpose yards just behind Christian McCaffrey at a running back. So he is going to be used as a every down back. He is going to be utilized not just as, a ground and pound type of piece, but the Jets are going to use him. Aaron Rodgers said, I'm not used to having a running back be my first read in certain plays. That's when you know the Jets going to feed that man.
Oh, yeah, man. I like that. I like the sound of that. Breece Hall is someone I'm looking at in fantasy because last year I would look at his numbers he has receiver stats almost. He would be the number 2 receiver on the Commanders last year. We didn't have a 600-yard receiving guy after Terry. So he's an absolute dog. Rodgers has all the weapons he needs on top of a top 3 defense. The offensive line. I know Elijah Vera Tucker is a mainstay. Y'all went and got a guy us Washington fans are familiar with, and Morgan Moses to play the right tackle. Another guy we're familiar with, and Tyron Smith, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, former Dallas Cowboys guy. You got our DC native, young Olu Fashanu. What is the offensive line that's going to protect Rodgers looking like in 2024?
That is has been at least the biggest concern from us Jets fans for a while. And I can tell you right now, Rio, us Jets fans are on cloud 9 with how this offensive line is shaping up because we are spoiled at offensive tackle. We got the 2 vets, like you mentioned, in Smith and Moses, and we have a rookie. I mean, it is wild. You put Olu on any other team, he's starting. But the fact that we got Tyron Smith, bro, we're redshirting a first-round talent, Olu. He's ready to start. I mean, he's out there at camp looking phenomenal. He's polished, and who better to train and mentor a young asset like Olu than the future Hall of Famer in Tyron Smith? Not to mention, we got a new left guard, John Simpson, who started in every single game for the Baltimore Ravens last year, and we have a year 2 guy in Joe Tippmann at center. So this Jets offensive line went healthy, all 5 of them. It is ridiculously good from left to right. We saw them starting fully healthy yesterday against the Commanders early on in the practice, and we had a a touchdown from Breece Hall, they moved the Commanders' defensive line in the run game, which was a really fun thing to see. And the depth behind the offensive line is great. That's the biggest X factor. The biggest difference I've noticed from being at training camp with the Jets last year compared to this year is that offensive line. I mean, we were excited about Aaron Rodgers being there last year, but every time he dropped back to pass, he had no time. And we're all like, oh my gosh, Rodgers really has no time to throw. This offensive line is not looking good. And last year, to put in perspective, we had Mekhi Becton at right tackle. We had Dwayne Brown at left tackle. We had Laken Tomlinson at left guard. Like, the offensive line looked completely different. Now they have 4 brand new starters and add in Olu off the bench. The offensive line is completely revamped, and the Jets made sure that they not only are going to protect Rodgers, but open up holes for our boys Breece Hall and Braylon Allen in the run game.
So were there any points of concern from your offensive side versus our defense at any point of the practice yesterday? Were there any? Because I heard our edge rushers, there were times they were getting home and stuff like that. Our linebacker core is extremely upgraded. We go from having no good linebackers to Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, a former Jet that you know very well. And I think we're going to get the prime years of Frankie Louvu here in Washington. Was there anything our defense did to stymie your offense at all during the practice yesterday?
You guys got Frankie Louvu? I didn't even know that. He was one of my favorite Jets.
Yep, he was number 4. He was running around with a single digit. He looks like a different person.
Yeah, Frankie Louvu was a stud, man. He was one of those guys I was upset that the Jets let go. And shout out to Jets Nation tuning in to Rio's YouTube channel. I just posted on socials and my community post. Jets fans, give my boy Rio a subscribe right now and hit this like button, everybody. Rio's doing a great job representing the Washington Commanders. And by the way, he is the official representative of the Washington Commanders for Roundtable Sports on the NFC East Roundtable. Go check out that episode last night. But to your point, man, the Jets put the starting offensive line early on in practice yesterday. And then, Smith and Moses, they're trying to be careful in terms of injuries, so they did not participate in everything. And then when Max Mitchell was out there at right tackle, that's when we started getting abused a little bit. That's when our starting offense, when we did the drive the field drill at the end of practice, similar to how the Commanders went 4 and out on offense, the Jets' offense did not look good either. Tyrod Taylor kept trying to throw it to Alan Lazard, and there was pressure in his face from the right side. Whoever was rushing the passer on that right side against Max Mitchell was pretty much winning every single rep. So your defense was flying all over the place. Your linebackers and your pass rush was getting home on Tyrod Taylor. There was a lot of times where Tyrod just threw the ball out of bounds because he simply had no time to throw the football. So that was the one thing I did notice later on in practice was your edge rushers getting home on Tyrod Taylor later on in practice.
And we're using Louvu as a starting middle linebacker next to Bobby Wagner, but we're using him as a situational pass rusher. So it was Louvu, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler Jr., and Cleveland Farrell coming off the edge for us yesterday. But to switch over to the other side of the ball, we didn't see much of our offense, but to give it some context before everybody just thinks we just got our shit kicked in, 3/5 of our starting offensive line set practice yesterday. Our starting left tackle, our rookie Brandon Coleman out of TCU, he was out of practice. Our right guard was out of practice, and our right tackle. So I know it didn't look great. It didn't look pretty. We're going against an elite defense, but also we have a scab O-line yesterday. So it wasn't just complete. We looked bad, but y'all traded for someone we know in the NFC East, Haason Reddick, a guy who has 50 sacks over the last 4 years and almost won a Defensive Player of the Year award. What is the contract cha-cha-cha of the Jets versus Haason Reddick looking like? Are y'all headed towards Darrelle Revis territory with that?
Oh, man, that's the one, thing about this whole offseason that's just like hanging over our heads. Like, there's no progression for it right now. Like, there's rumors that I might go into the regular season, which is very, very upsetting to hear. So I don't know where they're going to meet in the middle. It's just weird because the Jets told Haason Reddick that, hey, we're going to trade for you, but we're not really interested in giving you a long-term deal. It's going to be a 1-year rental, and maybe we'll rework your contract and give you like a more fully guaranteed contract. And Haason Reddick was on board. And then we traded for him, and then Hasan's like, you know what? I want a long-term deal. And now he's just like not showing up. Like, come on, man. Like, that's just so ridiculous. So I'm looking at it from this perspective. what has Haason Reddick done for the Jets? Nothing. I don't want the Jets to be like, you know what, fine, we'll give you a 4-year big-time contract. He's aging. We have a lot of promising edge rushers like Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, who is entering year number 2, that are for the future. And we have to pay Jermaine Johnson after this year. So I'm not comfortable giving Reddick a long-term deal. I'd rather them extend him maybe like a 2-year contract. So as of right now, the Jets are not going to give him this type of money that he's looking for, and it's getting a little ugly. But the good thing for the Jets is that we are very loaded at the defensive line, and Haason Reddick feels like a luxury. But I will say Bryce Huff left to the Eagles. So good luck with that, by the way. Bryce Huff is an absolute dog. I'm sorry that he's on the Philadelphia Eagles because
I wanted him.
he's going to be an absolute dynamic piece to that Philadelphia Eagles pass rush unit. And we kind of replace Huff with Reddick, but now Reddick's not in the building. So that's going to be up to Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald and all their other boys on the defensive line to really level up their game as we wait for Haason Reddick to return.
Yep. Reddick's going into his age 30 season. The production has been tremendous. Early in his career, the Cardinals had him playing out of place as an off-ball backer. It looked like he was headed towards bust territory. Then light bulb, someone put him to start rushing the quarterback, and his whole entire career changed. Absolute baller. So do y'all feel like y'all aren't in a rush to give him a contract because y'all gave up some bullshit to get him? Like, y'all gave up some weak-ass compensation. What is it, a 2026 conditional third?
Exactly. And if he walks next year, we get a compensatory pick. So like that's why the Jets made this move. We didn't give up a lot. It was not a 2025 pick. It was a 2026 pick. That's why the Jets are not really worried about this. They feel like they have the leverage. And that's why the Jets are not really like, the old regime would be like desperate, be like, give him what he wants. 4 years, max contract. This year, this regime with Joe Douglas, they're smart. They know that they don't have to just like bow down to a player. They're going to tell Reddick, show up, play some football for us, and maybe we'll talk about an extension midseason. That's what they did with John Franklin Myers a few years ago, where they extended him in week 4 because he was dominating the NFL in those first 3 weeks. The Jets are telling Haason Reddick that. Come here, play with us, stay healthy, dominate, get some sacks, make some plays, and then we'll talk about an extension midseason. But Reddick's like, absolutely not. I want my money right now because this could be the last time I'm ever going to get paid entering my age 29-year-old season.
Okay, I totally understand it. And with the way money's being thrown around now, and every player, when it's time for a contract, getting the most historical and lucrative deal in their position's history, I can respect it when a team tries to assert their leverage on it. But you definitely want Reddick out there on the field because Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson, they do have upside, but Haason Reddick adds a lot to an already good defense. He could be the cherry on top. Is there a specific unit of your defense that you still feel like could use an upgrade, or do y'all already have all the bodies you need on that side?
We definitely got all the bodies we need, but if there was one position that I would say is not as good as the rest, is the safety unit. The safeties has an undrafted free agent, Tony Adams, entering year 3. He was our starting free safety last year. He was the guy that I'm sure I would love to remind you, who picked off Jalen Hurts against the Eagles last year to get that W, which gave the Eagles their first L of the season last year. Tony Adams is one of my favorite players in the secondary. You also have Chuck Clark next to him, who tore his ACL in OTAs last year, and he was out for the season, and now he's starting next to Tony Adams. So, like, every unit on this defense is loaded up. We have 2 All-Pros at the linebacker spot in Quincy Williams and C.J. Mosley. We got the first-team All-Pro Sauce Gardner next to DJ Reed with Michael Carter II in the slot. We talked about the defensive line. Got to mention Quinnen Williams. But if there was one, I don't even call it a weakness, Rio. It's just like it's not as good as the rest of the team. It's the safety unit. But the cool thing about this Jets defense is we're not depending on elite All-Pro safeties to kind of be good. We've had bottom-level safeties the last 2 years and still have a top 3 defense in the entire NFL. And I think Tony Adams has a chance to kind of make his presence be heard around the NFL this year. He's a young prodigy that I've been really excited to watch the Jets, develop from an undrafted free agent standpoint.
Yep, and that secondary is headed by Sauce. Sauce absolutely carries himself like a star corner. He's coming to the league, first-team All-Pro, first-team All-Pro. He has not disappointed at all. He has superstar charisma. He absolutely exudes it. He said something yesterday in the press conference when they asked him about Jayden. You can tell when guys are just saying things and when guys mean it. He said, oh, that boy's going to be nice. That boy's going to be good. And he said they were trash talking back and forth. Jayden told him on the play where Sauce knocked down the ball, I thought I was going to get that past you. You're the only person who's going to knock that pass down. And you know what a bad quarterback looks like. You've seen a bunch in the last 20 years. I know what a bad quarterback looks like. What did you see from Jayden? Because the offense was not able to move the ball too much on you guys, but you can see it in body language and demeanor and processing, how fast he gets the ball out. What were your honest observations of what you saw from our rookie quarterback versus y'all's defense?
Yeah, like I'll say this, Rio, it is very refreshing as a Jets fan to not be worried about a young quarterback and looking about the intangibles you just talked about, because I think the most important element that I look at from a rookie and a young quarterback early on from the Jets standpoint or any other rookie like Jayden Daniels is the mental makeup, because you could be as physically talented as anybody, but it's not going to matter. How do you process things? What's your confidence level? What's your, footwork in the pocket? Do you look like you're antsy and you're all over the place? Are you throwing off your back foot? Or do you have that ability to show up and be like, I belong here? And I feel like he has that confidence in himself. And I think that's the most important thing. He did not look like he was frantic. He did not look like he was panicked. And I feel like tomorrow we're going to get a better idea of who he looks like against the Jets' second team defense, which, by the way, is still pretty good. So I was impressed by him. And listen, I've been very consistent with my takes on Jayden Daniels on my, the Huddle show that starts in a half hour with Dan and TD, is that if there was a rookie quarterback that no one's really talking about that could be the best in this class outside of Caleb Williams, of course, all the hype around him is Jayden Daniels. I think that he has all the intangibles. He's got the mobility. He's got the confidence. He's got the elite arm strength and talent, in my opinion, to make it. And for Sauce Gardner to say that, that really speaks volumes. Like, he does not just give praise to everybody. He really does not. So if you're a Commanders fan, I would be excited. This is a new era. This is an opportunity to kind of maybe find your new face of the franchise that you guys have been looking for since, Kirk Cousins left and, did not work out with a lot of different guys. And I think that Jayden Daniels has a really good chance here. And the biggest reason why I feel like he has a good chance is the job that the Commanders has done in the last few years to build around him playmaking wise. I mean, you look at the wide receiver unit for you guys. It's pretty deep, man. I mean, Brown was a guy I really liked out of college. Dotson, first-round talent. Terry McLaurin, still underrated in my opinion. You drafted Luke McCaffrey, which I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about. James Brown, which is a fan favorite from the Jets. I don't know if he's still got anything left in the tank.
He's a returner. He still do mostly as a returner. Yeah, he's our returner.
Wow.
Jamison Crowder.
How old is he now? Is he in his 30s by now?
Yeah, he's definitely in his 30s, but he still got some hitch in his giddy up. He almost housed a couple for us last year, and that's going to be our primary punt returner. So I think he almost has a roster spot still on lock.
Yeah, and you got Brian Robinson Jr. still back there with Austin Eckler. Like, I feel like you guys have a really good opportunity. My question to you is, how do you feel about the Commanders' offensive line? Because I'm not too, familiar with your guys' offensive line. I liked how your center out of college coming out when I did my, pre-draft process. But what's your thoughts of the offensive line depth going into this year for you guys?
Depth, I'm not sure at all about. I think our starting offensive line may be decent enough, because I think we all overrate the fact that everyone needs a dominant offensive line. Everyone doesn't need a dominant offensive line. You need an adequate offensive line. Yeah. You need it enough to let your offense do what it needs to do and give your quarterback enough time to process and see the field. The offensive line is a question mark, because we're probably starting a rookie day 2 pick at left tackle in Brandon Coleman. On the right side, Andrew Wiley was terrible last year, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. The entire team was terrible. The coaches were terrible. Eric Bieniemy's scheme was garbage, and it was just bad all around. Like, we were just bad vibes last year. But Tyler Biadasz, we got left guard Nick Allegretti coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs, getting his first real chance to be a starter permanently. We'll see. My 2 biggest concerns for the team is our lack of a cornerback one, and will this offensive line give Jayden Daniels a chance? Because I think the guy's going to be really good as a rookie, but the offensive line is something that we are weary of and something we're all taking notice of, because last year they had Sam Howell running for his absolute life for the majority of the season. And while the scheme and some of the quarterback's decision-making played a part in that, we gave up 60 plus sacks last year. That's never going to get it done versus anybody. So we're playing a Saturday afternoon, 12 noon preseason game. That sounds crazy. Like, I don't think I've ever recalled a Saturday afternoon preseason game. Is the weather going to be clear? And how much do we have to be concerned about that playing surface at MetLife? Because our stadium, FedEx Field, has taken many a ligaments and many a knees over the years, but it seems like y'all have taken the cake for the stadium that's getting guys hurt.
Hey, man, I really hope that's not going to be the case for both of our sakes, but the good news is it's going to be 82 degrees and sunny by kickoff at noon tomorrow. So we have had terrible weather here up in the Northeast in New York, New Jersey area, including today here. But tomorrow, I'm looking at the weather right now in East Rutherford. It is going to be sunny. It's going to be a beautiful day. It tops out at 85 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. So you don't got to worry about any weather conditions. And the fact that we tip off at noon tomorrow is going to be very interesting. I'll be live on my channel giving you my live play-by-play reaction throughout the entire game. If you guys want to come check it out, I'll be talking about a lot with Commander stuff outside of just the Jets, of course. So the weathers will be good. But listen, MetLife Stadium turf, I'm not going to defend it. Not a fan of it myself. People are like, oh, dude, you got to get your new turf. I hate your turf. I'm like, you hate the turf. We got to play 8 times a year on this thing. Right. I hate it just as much as you.
Yeah, that stadium is taking ligaments, it's taking souls, but let's hope that does not play a factor. So you guys are at a different stage of development. Like, y'all have built this over a few years now. Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas need to see some results this year. How do y'all handle the preseason as a team with Super Bowl aspirations?
Yeah, the preseason is all about, for me, is the depth. Because I feel like we are pretty much set from a starting standpoint on both offense and defense. And now I'm excited to see the rookies. I think Olu's going to start at left tackle. We're going to see Malachi Corley get his first action. Hopefully you see the rookie Braylon Allen, the running back from Wisconsin, who was out. Like, the Jets drafted a lot of my favorites this past draft class. Unfortunately, Jordan Travis is still injured. I would love to see him this year in the preseason because I'm hopeful that he can maybe turn into a long-term solution at quarterback. But at the end of the day, from the Jets standpoint, we're not going to play a lot of our starters. We're going to see our depth on defense. And even though it's going to be our second team defense, we still got a lot of players out there that know how to play football. Jamie Sherwood, our third linebacker, is a guy who has been developing under Robert Saleh for he's entering year number 4 now, and he was a star in joint practice yesterday, Rio. He is one of my favorite guys. He was a safety from Auburn that the Jets drafted in the 6th round. They turned him into a linebacker, and they've been developing him slowly and surely. He's the third guy right next to Quincy and CJ Mosley. He's probably going to be, you'll notice tomorrow, like number 44 on defense, that's going to be starting as the Mike linebacker. He's going to be making a lot of plays. He is elite in coverage. He's sideline to sideline. He's a guy that I'm super excited about to see from a defensive standpoint for the Jets tomorrow. And then offensively, Jason Brownlee, number 16, our wide receiver, entering year number 2. He's a guy that's going to fight for a roster spot. He made the 53-man roster last year, so he's a guy I'm looking forward to seeing. Malachi Corley, the rookie, like I talked about, and Tyrod Taylor. How does he look? But when Tyrod goes out, bro, we're not scoring anything. I mean, our quarterbacks stink. I mean, every time I'm at practice and I'm looking at our 3rd-string offense, 4th-string offense, I'm like, dude, we are awful. Like, Peasley and Adrian Martinez, who was like the star of the UFL, is on the Jets now. Like,
oh my God,
we are not going to score a point. So go to BetUS and bet the under on this one, in my opinion, because if the Jets don't score with Tyrod out there and then he goes to the sideline and we run in with Peasley and Martinez for the rest of the game, we're not scoring a damn point.
Oh man, Tyrod Taylor has to feel like so comforting as a Jets fan, though, because you know that the team is never going to necessarily bottom out if he's forced onto the field. Zach Wilson, like, I feel like the biggest crime done to the NFL is that we had to watch Zach Wilson in primetime like 5 times last year. Like, there's got to be some type of expedited flex scheduling, because once Rodgers went down, I know for a fan, it had to hurt your soul watching Zach Wilson in primetime that many times last year.
It really, like, that was the biggest thing, man. When Rodgers went down, I'm like, the whole plan was for Zach to sit behind Aaron for a year, and we don't have to worry about a young, struggling quarterback. Oh, it is so refreshing, bro. The fact that we have not just one good veteran quarterback, but two. I always looked at Tyrod before he was a Jet as like one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, we all know who Tyrod is. He's not a starter anymore. He's a backup everywhere he goes. And even with the Giants last year when he was playing, he showed some flashes. Like, I think he's still got a lot of juice left in the tank. He's looked really good for the Jets. And from a backup standpoint, I don't know how much he's going to play tomorrow. Probably not a lot, honestly. Probably just a drive or two. But I'm really excited that we got Tyrod. But I'll say this, Rio, I don't want to see Tyrod on the field at all this year. But if he does go on the field, I do got confidence. And I had a debate with TD Finstock about this. He thinks that if Tyrod's on the field, we're not going to do anything. I'm like, nah, bro, we got an elite defense and a lot of playmakers, and Tyrod's game is dinking and dunking. That's all he's got to do to help this Jets football team win if Rodgers goes down for a game or two.
I agree. And I don't agree with TD on that because y'all were in games every week with Mormon Manziel behind the center. So y'all are going to be fine with Tyrod, because if there's one thing a dependable backup's going to do, it's going to get you to your next destination. I always call backup quarterbacks donut spare tires. He's one of the most high-end donut tires you're going to find. He's always going to get you to your next destination. He's not going to last a very long time as a starter, but y'all are in much better hands than with Zach Wilson under the helm. How are your skilled players on offense going to play at all tomorrow?
Yeah, so probably it's going to be Jason Brownlee and Malachi Corley as the two leading guys. Maybe our Xavier Gibson, who is our year two slot. Don't expect Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, no. I don't expect Lazard either. So, like, those are the three guys I would not expect to play. The Jets play it safe. I mean, you saw Saleh not even play Rodgers in the practice last year, bro. Like,
I would be absolutely traumatized to put Rodgers. I barely would want to see him in practice this year.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I saw Rodgers go out there in street clothes, I was kind of relieved. I'm like, you know what? Mm-hmm. As a fan, I want to see him go out there against, and this is kind of his preseason, go up against, teams in joint practice. But I'm like, okay, every time I'm at practice, Rio, I got a pit in my stomach watching Rodgers drop back to pass. I'm just like, I have trauma from last year still to this day. So I think that you're not going to see a lot of our starters, but you're going to see some of the youth guys. Watch Olu at left tackle, number 74. That's who we're excited to see as a rookie. And we'll see what the young playmakers look like. Braylon Allen, our rookie running back from Wisconsin. Don't expect Brees to play. And Isaiah Davis, another rookie running back we're excited about. Izzy Abanikanda is probably like on the, that he's entering that trajectory of getting cut. So he's got to make a name for himself, because we drafted two running backs this year. We drafted him last year. Izzy, he kind of doesn't fit the mold of what we're looking for now. We're trying to
out of Pitt.
Out of Pitt. We liked Izzy too. He's kind of not. We're trying to transition this offense to a more physical, like ground and pound up the middle, and not do just speed zone concepts, which was last year's concept. So I think the Jets are going to be, watch for Izzy to try to make a name for himself. He got bodied yesterday, bro. I don't know what player on the Commanders decked him, bro. He got depleted from somebody. I was like, bro, Izzy's getting absolutely killed out there, bro. So from an offensive standpoint for the Jets, it's going to be, number 16 Brownlee, 82 Gibson, and Malachi Corley, number 17, out there, wide receiver, we're excited about.
Yeah, for me personally, I need to see our starting unit on both sides get some smoke. Like, we are establishing year one. We need to understand what our identity is, or even if we have an identity, because we have not had one for the last 25 years. So our secondary, I need to see Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, and our rookie second rounder, who everyone thinks is going to be lights out, Mikey Sanders, still out of Michigan. Absolute baller. Our best corner is on the inside. It's question marks on the outside, but I need to see Forbes line up. I don't care if it's for second string, third string, or fourth string. He needs to give me some hope as a fan that he can play cornerback in the league.
How was he last year as a rookie?
He was awful. He was awful, but we were all bad. Like, the whole Jack Del Rio scheme was bad.
Did you like the pick when you made the pick?
No, I hated it. I have a reaction on my channel from my live stream where I walked out of the room. We literally had like a football prayer circle, and we prayed Christian Gonzalez down the board, and here he is sitting right in front of our eyes.
Oh, you drafted him over Gonzalez.
We let the Patriots have Christian Gonzalez. We were chanting Gonzo, 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 and they picked Emmanuel Forbes. There was literally a pre-recorded video of Ron talking about how they wanted Emmanuel Forbes, and he looks like not an NFL football player. Like, it's not just versus y'all. It's in practice. It was in the games. There was not much
bro.
progress. I don't need a rookie to come out and be gangbusters in year one, but you know it when you see it, a player that does not belong on the field. He makes a lot of business decisions because he looks 130 pounds soaking wet. It's just, I need to see that he can do anything from a coverage standpoint. Offensively, our wide receiver competition is the most interesting to watch because outside of Terry, Jahan Dotson, and probably Luke McCaffrey because we drafted him, but those two and Olamide Zaccheaus, he looks like our starting slot right now. The last couple positions are open. We got a big boy that you probably seen make some catches yesterday named Bryson Tremaine, the only 6'4" wide receiver you see on this team because we got all Smurfs playing the wide receiver position. Bryson Tremaine, De'Ami Brown, Jamison Crowder, Luke McCaffrey, seeing how that wide receiver room plays out, our tight end position. Zach Ertz is a KG veteran. I don't need to see old reliable in the preseason. He's going to be our starting tight end, but Ben Sinnott and Cole Turner and John Bates, I want to see our tight end position play out, but we have a kicker competition. Like, y'all are good at the kicker position. We don't know who our starting kicker is going to be. We signed Brandon McManus, and he had a weird case, so we had to go ahead and say deuces to him, and we brought in a UFL guy, Ramiz Ahmed, and the Jags kicker, Riley Patterson, and they've been missing kicks all over the field throughout training camp, so we didn't know if we have a kicker. Wide receiver position, and I just want to see some starters tomorrow. But to close out this string, because I know you got a show to do in about 15 minutes, y'all haven't seen the playoffs in 14 years, my guy.
So why'd you got to remind me, Rio?
It's been 14 years. It's almost 2 decades since y'all have seen the playoff. Man. But last time you were there, y'all were so good defensively and so well coached. You went to back-to-back AFC championships with Mark Sanchez, who wasn't even putting up good numbers. What were those 2 seasons like for you?
Man, those 2 years were, unfortunately, looking back on it, heartbreaking to think about it, just because we were just that close to the Super Bowl. And I was young there. What was that, 2009? I was 11 years old and 12 years old back to back. I was already a Jets fan with the Chad Pennington era as a young kid, but that was kind of like my staple of like, wow, I love this team, man. And like, I'll do whatever it takes to, be loyal to this team. And here I am 14 years later, still waiting for a playoff appearance. Our last winning season, Rio, was 2015. We were 10-6 with Fitzpatrick, but still missed the playoffs. We had a chance to make the playoffs. All we had to do was go into Buffalo and beat them, win and you're in scenario, and we lost. So a lot of, negativity, a lot of, miserable seasons, but this Jets fan base is different, man. We are still here. We're passionate. We're loyal, and I asked Joe Douglas, our GM, yesterday at practice, like, you have a message to Jets fans, and his message just felt so real. It's keep the faith, guys. Keep the faith. And hearing that from Joe Douglas was just like, he patted my shoulder, and it felt like a father figure, like, you're right, Joe. We're keep the faith. Like, it was just good to hear from our GM to tell us that, because we've been through a lot. He's been through a lot as a general manager. He's done such a phenomenal job building this team on paper, and now he's handing this off to Robert Saleh. It's up to him to really put this thing this all together, and of course staying healthy. So we got to get to the playoffs, man. We got to get the monkey off our back. But hey, I'd rather have a 13-year playoff drought than a 24-year playoff win drought. Miami Dolphins.
Hey, man, I know what that feels like. I got a 19-year playoff drought. We haven't won a playoff game since 05. I was 14 at the time. My goodness, it's been such a long time. But New York media is wicked. Y'all run guys out of town. The combination of your fans and the media, y'all run guys out of town. When I was hearing Robert Saleh's name thrown in hot seat conversations last year, that was very weird to me because he's clearly a very good coach, but it's a not for long league. And when you don't have a quarterback, things can change for you very quickly. Exactly. If things go south for the Jets this year, not wishing that on you, I'll knock on wood. But if things go south, and it doesn't work out with Aaron Rodgers, are Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh in jeopardy of losing their jobs?
Yeah, I mean, you got to add context to it. Like, hypothetically, is Rodgers healthy and we're losing, or did he get hurt again and we're losing? So I feel like this Jets team has a 2-year window with Rodgers. Rodgers committed to the team for another 2 years, and I think that, like, hypothetically, if Rodgers is healthy and it's just a bomb season and we miss the playoffs, I do think that there's going to be some talks. But knowing the Johnsons, the owner of this team, they are so bought in with Saleh. They are so entrenched with Douglas, where I do feel like they would convince us to be like, let it just run it back one more year. But at the end of the day, as a being in tune and tapped in with this Jets fan base, they are not convinced with Saleh yet. He hasn't proved anything. I mean, he's built a phenomenal defense, but now it's all about the offense, man. I mean, you can only do so much as a defensive mind, and Saleh is a lot more hands-on with his offense because he knows, like, he feels comfortable to let Jeff Ulbrich or DC just run the defense, and now he is all in on offense. So, yes, a small answer to that, unfortunately, yes. If the Jets do have one of those bad seasons this year, both of those guys will be on the hot seat, but I hope that's not the case. Before we get out of here, though, Rio, I just got to say something, man. You're doing a phenomenal job here, and I got to get you up to over 100 likes, folks. We got 281 live watchers and not 100 likes. 87 likes. We're on Rio Robinson's YouTube channel. Jets fans, if you're watching right now, do me a favor and subscribe to Rio Robinson. He's doing a phenomenal job covering the Washington Commanders. He's the host of the NFC East Roundtable Live every single Thursday night. Rio, always a pleasure to, be on your show. Got to get you on my show eventually soon. Yeah. And, hit that like button, folks. We got to get this way over 100. There we go. 103 likes for you, Rio.
Let's do that. Appreciate my guy. He covers the Jets really well. His channel's awesome. The intro looks like something on a TV network. I love the new media fan content format. To get you out of here, your prediction for the 2024 Jets is?
AFC East champions. That's my prediction. Double-digit wins, 12-5, and the Jets defense stays at the top. And Aaron Rodgers stay healthy, and the offense does enough, and we'll make a deep playoff run. That's my prediction, and I will predict that the Washington Commanders will turn a lot of heads this year. I'm not going to predict a playoff berth for Washington, but I'm going to predict that Daniel shows enough promise to show up and be like, okay, we may have something special here, and the people are going to look at the Commanders just like they looked at the Jets a few years ago, be like, damn, they got enough talent where if they keep being patient and not overpay for free agents and stay within the structure of developing with the draft, I think that the Washington Commanders are going to turn a lot of heads this year because I really do like their youth on this team.
Y'all heard the man. I like these guys much better than the guys they share a stadium with at MetLife.
Richie, I hate the Giants too, man.
I hate them. Tell folks where they can find you and we can get up out of here.
Yeah, man, you can find me at NYJets_media on Instagram and Twitter. You can catch me on YouTube, just at Jets Media. And definitely go check out the NFC East Roundtable, folks. Rio Robinson's doing a great job. We need Washington Commanders fans to flood that chat because we put a poll in the chat every time we're live on the NFC East Roundtable to see which fan base is represented the most. And I want Washington to be at the top, baby, because Washington may be my favorite team in the NFC East. I hate the Eagles. I just don't like Philadelphia. I'm a big Mets fan, so I hate the Philadelphia Phillies. You know what I mean? I hate the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm a big Knicks fan. But, Washington, I got no ill will for, man. So you're my favorite team in that division, and I love you, Rio. I appreciate you having me on here. Keep grinding on this YouTube channel. Peace and love as always. I'll see you guys soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you for coming on, my boy. All right, guys. Just to close out, what are we looking at? What are we looking for in our Washington Commanders tomorrow? Let's get this stream up to an hour that we can go ahead and get out of here. I don't want to keep y'all for too long on a Friday afternoon, but since you're here, let's talk about it. My plan for tomorrow's preseason game, and it's going to change next week when we go up to Miami and we do this again and we do a joint practice with the Dolphins. I want Jayden Daniels to play the entire first quarter. And I hope that consists of at least 2 possessions. With how fast time and pace moves in the league today, it may not be 2 possessions. We get the ball one time, they get the ball one time, quarter's over. I want to see at least 3 to 5 dropbacks from Jayden Daniels. If we're down 3 offensive linemen, maybe just put him out there for a drive, get him the hell off that playing surface. We go up to South Beach next week. What do y'all want to see out of this team tomorrow? The position I have my eyes on the most is cornerback. I need to know that we don't need to call Stephon Gilmore and bring a veteran cornerback who knows the system in the building. Cornerback is my other than Jayden Daniels. We're excluding Jay. Everybody wants to see Jayden Daniels. He's must-see TV. We want to see anything he does. I want to see Jayden, even if he's just handing the ball off. I want to see that he's getting the team in and out of the huddle. I want to see that everything looks in rhythm and the decision-making, the processing looks sharp. But the cornerback position, excluding Mikey Sanders still, I feel like Sanders still's a dog. We know he's going to be a dog. There's no questions there. I need to see Michael Davis, Benjamin St-Juste, and Emmanuel Forbes, and even Tariq Castro-Fields, because he's looked better than Emmanuel Forbes in camp so far. I need to know that they can cover. I need to know that they can run with guys. I need to know that we're not going to be the league's worst passing defense ever. We gave up historic numbers last year. Don't ever want to see that again. Joe Witt seems like a sociopath as a coach. I love his energy. Anywhere, anyone, anytime. The way we live is not for everyone because we're going to be violent and throw our bodies at people. That's what I want to hear. But talking without a plan doesn't mean anything. I want to see what that identity looks like in person. Do I want to see us headhunting guys in the preseason? Absolutely not. But I want to see what this secondary can be. I want to see what Quan Martin in year 2 looks like. He looks like he's taking the free safety job it looks like it's his. It looks like it's his job to lose. What's he look like in preseason year 2? We all know how bad it started in preseason last year with Quan Martin. Is he going to get off to a better start? I don't care what the result of the game is like. The only thing I truly care about is whether guys get through the game healthy. Are we all going to make it back on the team bus with nobody on the injury list? Because results do not matter in these preseason games, but there's obviously some guys we want to see. I don't need to see B-Rob or Austin Eckler. Let C-Rod and Jeremy McNichols get all the carries on the offensive side of the ball. On offense, Luke McCaffrey, I have him circled in dark red marker. We drafted Luke McCaffrey in the 3rd round, and I have not heard too much flashing in preseason so far. Not too much on him at all in joint practice yesterday. I need to know what we have. Is Luke McCaffrey going to be an active roster guy in year 1, or is he going to be a stash practice squad guy? I imagine you want your 3rd round pick on the roster, but these guys that we have coaching this team now, I don't think they're going to force guys on the field or on the roster just because they drafted them. I mean, obviously he's going to make the team at least as a practice squad guy. I want to see Luke McCaffrey show me something. We've used him out of the backfield. We used him on the slot. We used him on the outside. I want to see what his niche on this team is going to be, because in the slot so far, it's been the Olamide Zaccheaus show. Olamide Zaccheaus has built a rapport with a lot of guys. The receivers I have my eye on are Bryson Tremaine and Luke McCaffrey. I know what Diami is in preseason. I know he's a training camp Richmond Ashburn legend every offseason, and then the season starts and he's a Jag. The preseason starts, he's dropping every other pass thrown to him. And then yesterday in joint practice, he's catching one-handed passes in the rain, but he'll miss something that's thrown right to his chest. Craziness, man. But it's not even like a stat thing I'm looking for in these preseason games. I just want to see guys. Hey, thank you. Appreciate Jets Nation, by the way. The Jets fans that pulled up in the chat today, y'all are dope. Y'all kept the chat interesting. Y'all kept it respectful. Y'all kept it fun. And y'all kept it raw. Y'all were talking y'all shit in the chat. Y'all should be excited. Y'all signed one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of football. Y'all have a top 3 defense. Y'all have an all-pro corner. Y'all should have an all-pro receiver because G5 Garrett Wilson is a guy I'm very high on. Y'all have a lot of reason to be excited in New York, and y'all are the clearly better team that plays in that stadium. So I wish the best for y'all. I would love to see y'all unseat Buffalo and the Dolphins in that division. Yeah, I would love to see y'all unseat Buffalo, but hey, back to the Washington Commanders. The wide receivers, the tight ends not named Zach Ertz, and our left tackle, Brandon Coleman. That's what I want to see on the offensive side of the ball. Keep Jayden upright, keep his legs clean, keep his pocket clean, and just don't embarrass us. You know what Sabrina Carpenter said? Just please don't embarrass me, motherfucker. Don't embarrass us. It's the preseason. I don't care if we lose. We need to go out and make some mistakes, but what I don't need is for us to go out and look like a less than football team. I don't need us to go out and look terrible. Go out and commit a bunch of turnovers and just throw up all over ourselves. One thing before I go. Washington fans, I beg of you. The kickers. Oh my God, Abel. Thank you. The kicker competition. Can we make field goals, and is our kickers capable of kicking it through the end zone for a touchback? With these new kickoff rules, kick returns are now a thing again. I don't know how anyone's going to house a kick with the way that the lines are set up now, but guys are going to return kicks. So I need to know, do I have a kicker capable of touchbacks and a kicker capable of making extra points and field goals? Our kicker competition is an enigma right now. We need some clarity over these next couple preseason games. But to close this stream out, I beg of you, Washington fans, do not start forming new hives and factions with our backups, quarterbacks. Jayden Daniel is the right now. He's the present. He's the future. He's the guy here. Do not watch Jeff Driscoll or Sam Hartman play versus thirds and fourths and equate that to whatever Jayden looks like playing against ones and or twos. Let's let this backup quarterback love shit go. I don't need us obsessing and thinking we can build around backup guys ever again here. And that is why it makes me so content and so satisfied that we signed a backup quarterback that nobody believes in. Nobody believes in Marcus Mariota. Not one person. And that's exactly what I'm looking for as my backup quarterback. A quarterback that has a similar skill set, similar size, and can run the ball that nobody wants to see play football. Please let the love fest for backup quarterbacks go. Oh, I know it's coming. Sam Hartman, looking like Braveheart, is going to come out in the field. He's going to shake his hair. He's going to throw a touchdown versus the fourth. And some dummy is going to run the social media. Quarterback controversy. Did we find our guy? Our insurance policy? Is he coming for Jayden's spot? No. We're not doing that. Please let those days of being a Washington fan go. Please let it go. But that's all I got for today. Thank you for the 265 that have been concurrent in the chat for the majority of this stream today. Washington plays preseason football versus the New York Jets tomorrow at MetLife Stadium, Saturday afternoon preseason. I like it. I'm not used to it, but I'll take it. I'll be live as soon as the game ends for a Rio post-game Raw show. As soon as the game ends tomorrow, we're going to break it down. We're going to overreact, and we're going to go be irrational football junkies because we are dying to get to week 1. We are less than a month away from that. That's all I got for right now. Hail to the Washington Commanders. If you're going to do your sports betting, do it on BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. Y'all know the vibrations. Until next time, Commander Rio, out. Enjoy y'all weekends.